Shit, what's up, fellas?
What's going
How
on?
you guys doing? Fucking, we made it, man.
Finally, we made it.
I know I had to reschedule a few times. California rain,
All this weather that's going on, it's crazy.
wildfires.
Yep.
Shit.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you guys coming out, man. I know I'm excited. I really been wanting to sit down with you, Craig. And I know we got a lot to talk about. You've been moving and shaking quite a bit, and I really appreciated. I know Arllan did too, and Nic did too. You know, your excitement with like what we're trying to cook here. You know, with the I Hate Small Talk program, and what we're trying to do with like Fast Lane Mayhem. But you know, I kind of wanted to slow it down today. You know, like Arlan's been out of town for a little bit. You know, he's been out there.
First year of, or the first travel days of the year, like usual. I'm usually out of a suitcase, so.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, so rewind it back. Why don't you tell us where you were at?
I was in Japan at the first week of January to like the second week for Tokyo Auto Salon this year.
Okay.
So we were out there, you know, doing our thing with the business stuff, like Counter Space Garage and stuff like that.
For sure.
So,
And for the folks who don't really know, what is Tokyo Auto Salon?
so Tokyo Auto Salon is basically SEMA for Japan, but obviously it focuses a lot on the Japanese domestic market and what they have to offer. So you'll see a lot of stuff out there from like, you know, Work released a new VSKF. That was a huge rave.
Okay.
So now you can't sell them for $8,000 anymore. But you see a lot of stuff like that out there, and then like companies that you don't even really ever hear of.
Yep.
Like there's another one called Cleab, which actually does a lot of like FK8, FL5 aero parts. Not a lot of people know about him here stateside, but he does really cool stuff. And he does all like track focus parts, and he was always out there like in Suzuka and stuff like that. So meeting guys like that was pretty cool. I'd say that Tokyo Auto Salon was definitely, I was talking to Craig about this earlier, it's actually smaller than SEMA. The venue is really small compared to SEMA, where we have like West Hall, Central Hall, East Hall, and then we have like the whole like South Plaza open.
For sure, all the outdoor stuff.
Tokyo Auto Salon is just all inside, and I'd say it's probably the same size as like Wackfest LA and then another hall.
Oh wow.
But in general, it's very congested, and there's just so much to look at everywhere, and there's so many different companies. It's just really something I think everybody should experience at least once. If you're in the industry, definitely go during industry day, because you do not want to go on public day. It is just shoulder to shoulder. Everyone trying to get photos of like race queens and models and stuff, and people clamoring everywhere. So
What do you think keeps it so small? Like, is it just?
it's actually space constraint that I feel like. Like
Yeah.
Japan is a really small country that people don't realize. It's just very congested in certain areas. Like when I was out in Tokyo, like, oh man, like the amount of people that you see everywhere, and like the Shibuya crossing thing that everyone sees in Tokyo Drift, like that's real. Like that is real.
Real crowds.
Like there is that many people, and going on the train during rush hour where you're shoulder to shoulder and everybody's pushing each other, like it's very common.
I didn't really realize how many of the homies were out there at the same time you were out there.
Yeah, so I mean, like Tokyo Auto Salon, generally every year you'll have a lot of industry people that are out there at the same time. So, but yeah, this time around there was a lot more people than I expected to be there. I was running into guys from like the East Coast and stuff like that I haven't seen in years. They're like, hey man, how come I never see you anywhere? It's just like, I never expected to see you here in Japan.
Right.
So that was pretty cool, and it's just like got to connect with a lot of people, and people that I have connections through, whether it's Instagram or just from work networking, like from like Korea, from Indonesia, even like England and stuff like that were over there for, you know, the whole week of Tokyo Auto Salon.
Right.
Because Tokyo Auto Salon, that whole like Tokyo Prefecture area like just turns into a giant like car mecca.
Yeah.
And it's like there's events going on every day of the week, even afterwards. You know, people are out and about, and like you start seeing like fixed up GTRs like in the middle of Shibuya. Like Sarah threw like her meet for like Bad Seki that she did this year. So there's a whole lot of everything going on.
Is it like SEMA where there's just specific days for the industry people, and then they open it up at the end for public?
Yeah, so Friday is your industry day, and then Saturday, Sunday is public days.
Cool.
So it's actually more open to the public than what SEMA historically was. That's how they've always set it up.
Right.
And it's just been super busy, like in terms of doing all that stuff. Sorry, 1 second, lost my train of thought. My phone was ringing.
No, you know what I did notice though when I was watching your story and a couple of the homies is, I like, you know, comparing it to SEMA, is that I see a lot of like when folks are at SEMA, I see a lot of SEMA content, like specifically at the halls, right?
Yep.
But when I was watching folks at Tokyo Auto Salon, I saw very minimal content at the actual show, and I saw a lot of folks outside, like the parties, the hidden meets, and all that stuff.
To me, that's the part of Tokyo Auto Salon that's definitely the most allure, is that you get to experience like Japan in the flesh. So you don't want to be in some like convention hall that just looks like every other convention hall. It just has nicer cars, so to say.
Right.
You want to be like at the secret underground meet, like over like at some parking garage in the middle, like Shibuya or something like that. You want to be at the Daikokua in that whole parking lot area where everybody meets up. That place is actually massive in person. It looks like it's like a 30-car parking lot, like when you look in photos and stuff. No, it's like you could fit like 80 to 100 cars in there.
Snap.
The vending machines are bomb. They got like hot coffee, like banana lattes.
The vending machines are just as good as 7-Eleven.
Japan 7-Eleven is the best.
Have
you ever been?
Crazy.
No.
No, dude. Egg salad sandwiches all day in Japan. And the conversion rate was so cheap when we were there. Everything was basically 30 to 40% off.
Oh,
so
balling. Rich balling.
Balling out there.
And you've been there before? It's like Japan?
Yeah, so I've been there before, but this is actually my first time going back as, I guess, like for mainly car stuff, and then also being a lot older coming back.
Right.
So it was a different experience, and then really it was just, I wasn't with one group. I was with multiple different people. So like I spent time with like the homies from like Third Pedico, so like Chris and Krista a lot over there. They like showed me around, and then Counter Space Garage, we were going out and seeing things. I even ran into old friends over there that I knew that lived in Japan that I haven't seen in years, like in the most random places.
Oh, cool.
So I was staying like in Kabukicho, like in Shinjuku, and then my homie Hiro like came up to me. He was like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I was like, it took me a second to look down. I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "Dude, I know you." And then like it took me to like this really dope like hole in the wall sushi spot that was probably some of the best sushi I ever had.
That's a cool experience for sure.
So like seeing the stuff that like a lot of the locals will do,
Right.
and like that's more of what I'm into. Like I like the touristy stuff. I travel a lot. I'll go and see the Roman Colosseum and stuff if I'm in Italy, but I'll leave immediately right after.
For sure.
Like, all right, like I need to be away from crowds.
Right, like
I
show
need
me
to,
what the locals is doing.
Like show me what is like the real part of Japan, not what I see all over social media and like TV and all that stuff. Like I want to go to spots that you don't see.
Right.
It's much more visceral. You get to kind of integrate
yeah.
into the lifestyle and really feel like
Most definitely
what the area is like.
And it's like for Japan, I feel like we have this connotation, especially being in the automotive industry and like the car scene. Like you think it's like parties every night and like girls dancing in mini skirts, like DJs like all up in the parking garage. It's like, nah, it's not like that. What's funny is that like every time I think of that scene, I just remember that was shot in LA.
What was scene?
Where they're all partying in the parking garage and like
Tokyo
they have the whole
Drift one?
Tokyo Drift song going
word?
on. That was in LA. That was at Hawthorne Mall.
Oh shit.
We've all been
You
had.
knew immediately. They got me. So that was actually in Hawthorne because ain't no way they was gonna film that in Tokyo and get away with it because they're
That's so
actually
true.
pretty strict about it over there.
Yeah, talk to us about some of those meets that you went to. What'd you see? Like, what was that like?
Like, dude, Sarah's first meet, the first location, like immediately shut down, like barely anybody coming in. So the main reason is that in Japan, like the cops are actually pretty strict about it over there, and like they don't want like loud public nuisances and things like that,
Right.
and or like something creating traffic. So I think it's like 100% like conviction rate over there for like a lot of things.
Oh, wow.
So they're actually pretty stringent when it
No
comes
tolerance.
to just like they don't have a lot of tolerance out there. Like they'll straight up just get you, lock you up, don't care, and then you'll get into
wow.
some trouble. I've had some buddies that like went over there for car stuff, and I think like one of my friends is like a speeding ticket over there, and like he can't like go back. They'll like arrest him as soon as he gets back in country.
No.
But he like got a speeding ticket and then he left and he never paid for it. And then I'm just like, bro, they're gonna get you one of these days.
Absolutely. We've been waiting for him.
Because he rented like an R34 or something like that, and just like,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, like Japan in general, like
They don't play.
speaking to the people that like I know that do live there and like people that I met there and like getting to know more what life is like over there, it's definitely super in line.
Okay.
People walk a certain way on the stairs. You want to be towards the left because people who need to be in a rush will be on the right, who want to run. Same with the escalators and stuff like that. You walk down the street a certain way, you know, you don't litter and all that stuff, which is all good things in a sense.
Absolutely.
But it's very controlled and it's very
Systematic.
systematic. Systematic would be the right word. Like I was gonna say dystopian, but that sounds really bad. Like they live like in the middle of some like you know, some like a dictatorship.
Yeah.
But it's more in line of where it's like I feel like Japan as a culture as a whole, especially modern day Japan.
Right.
Everybody stays a certain way and they play a certain route that keeps it safe. You know, I feel like automotive enthusiasts as a whole over there are definitely the outliers.
Right.
Like these are the guys like blasting music, you know, speeding down the streets.
Kind of like rebels and shit.
Yeah, being the rebels. And then like if you look at it historically, like with a lot of the car stuff and even like motorcyclists because I'm super into bikes, like,
Right.
you know, the bozo gangs and stuff like that, like they were rebels.
100%.
You know, those are the guys like rocking like skin tight jeans, pompadours, like all the tropes that you'll see like you know in like media and stuff of like the Japanese bad boy is like it's this dude that rides bikes and rides around in like lowered cars that's like slammed to the floor.
So like, does that still exist? Because I remember seeing magazines out here as a young kid and seeing that, I was like, oh, that shit's tight. Does that like, I don't want to say defiance, but like that, I guess that spirit of that rebel still exists with that tight, you know,
In a
line?
sense, it does. I think I see it more, to be honest, with the drift community more than anything. Because motorsports become so prevalent in Japan, you know,
Right.
obviously over the years, they built so many names under GTR, RX-7s, et cetera, with those companies. They had their golden era. I feel like motorsport now is more seen in a better light in Japan, but that comes with like, you know, like F1 and track racing because they have like Yuki Tsunoda now who's out there.
Right.
You know, Japan's golden boy for racing. They've had guys over the years like Max Orito, Keiichi Tsuchiya, now Taniguchi, Araseiji. All these guys kind of set the precedence for like the professionalism, but everybody forgets that Keiichi was like a street punk and like he did all this stuff. Like he actually got banned from racing from an old video called Plus P.
Okay.
That they filmed him doing like toge runs, so like little mountain runs in his 8.6.
Oh, damn.
But I think it was like a whole unsanctioned thing. There was a big thing about it. Smokey Nagata got like deported from the UK and they were gonna like crush his Supra.
Reminds me of like skate culture a little bit.
Yeah,
you know?
so like
Feels
Where it's
like it.
rebellious and
Oh, yeah.
super gritty, like videotaping and let's sneak out to this spot. And
But also, like, this is my identity too, though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna freely be
Yeah.
who I want to be.
And
you
it's a form of self-expression.
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
And it's you see it a lot with like
and
dude,
community.
Japanese people drink heavy.
I see one of your videos.
Oh, dude, and it's they drink heavy, and watching them crash out is like the most hilarious thing ever. But if you look at it in hindsight, that's really the only way they have to express and like really let themselves go.
Right.
Because they're in an area where everybody's doing it, so it's socially acceptable.
Right.
You know, they can't be. You know, nobody should be crashing out in the middle of work. I mean,
Right.
it's like it's so in line to the point where I feel like they feel a little boxed in, so they want
see
to
that.
let themselves go and just have some fun. You know.
Yeah.
And it's because they're very mindful of what society thinks of them. And it's like the whole tattoo thing is like still a thing over there. There's still a certain stigma around it, like versus here, you know, we don't really have that here.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes from like back in like the early 2000s, there was actually a huge thing against, you know, we're all familiar with Yakuza, Japanese gangs, where if you were affiliated with them in any way, like you pretty much got like excommunicated from like jobs and communities and opportunities because they were really trying to get that out of the country,
Got
you know,
it.
that stigma. So you didn't even have to be Yakuza. Like let's say your boyfriend was Yakuza.
Right.
And then like
By association.
by association, they were like shunned, you know, and that's really like a big part of like societal norms that Japan tries to push.
Right.
And it's a good and a bad thing, just like anything else. Like everyone's like, oh, Japan's this perfect like anime land where like everybody drives Skylines, and I'm like, it's not.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, I love Japan. You know, it was a cool experience. I definitely enjoyed my time there, but every time I go to these different countries, there's give and takes that I take from each country.
For sure.
You know?
Talk to me about the give and takes. I mean, like, you know, where would you rate it at?
Japan is definitely, it's actually higher on my scale. I'd give it like an 8.
Okay.
Mainly for the reason is that it's actually a really safe country.
I've seen that.
You know, I feel no problems walking in the middle of the night, you know, 12, 2, 3 in the morning, back from like a club because the trains are all closed.
Right.
And I feel like I'm not in danger.
For
you know?
sure.
But maybe that's because I'm a dude.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen videos, and I don't know, maybe it's just not, it doesn't show an accurate picture, but everything I've seen about like nightlife out in Japan, folks will be like blasted, out of their mind, drunk, but like and out in public too, like, you know, tipping over, falling over, puking,
Oh,
and
yeah.
folks will help you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
out here
yeah.
we'd be like, you know what I mean? It was kind of refreshing to see, really.
Yeah, so like Japan is definitely safer in that sense, and I think it's a lot, you know, that's something that they've crafted very well that they've been able to do.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff where it's like on the back end, like they kind of, I don't want to say orchestrated it, but there's definitely things where like if you pay attention historically, like the one thing nobody will ever talk about Japan is that certain parts of it are very xenophobic, where it's like, you know, they only like, you know, true Japanese people, you know, but I've been to a lot of countries where like xenophobia is super prevalent, but we don't see it as much when a lot of people go to Japan because we're usually going to like super touristy areas.
Right.
Kyoto, Osaka, Tokyo, but you could see it to where because of their view on certain tourists, they're starting to outlaw certain things. Like there's that really famous staircase in Fuji where everyone will take photos.
Right.
And because of like people that generally act like shitheads,
Tourists, bro.
they've
Yep.
like pretty much like, hey, you can't do that anymore. You know, they will really X out a lot of things like that, and it's just.
People twerking up there and shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some stuff where it's warranted. Where like, yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, you shouldn't be doing that in general. Like, I'm not gonna go out to the Yellowstone and try to take a selfie with a grizzly bear,
so bad.
you know, because I'm gonna get my ass
hate it.
eaten. But it's like that same connotation. But Japan in general, like, has always kind of had kind of that viewership of like, hey, like we don't want to mix with you, sort of deal.
Right.
But it's one of those things where it's like you don't see it a whole bunch as much today as
Right.
way back in the day, you know. Because if you look it up, like, and like, you can Google it, where it's like xenophobia problems in Japan, it's everywhere.
I think it is
Yeah.
everywhere. You know, now that you talk about it, it kind of reminds me of when I was younger, bro. And I would see it like in my folks a little bit, specifically my mom. And I
Yeah.
think it has to do with like identity, especially
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And when you see like things where like, I think it's a good thing when like, you know, cultures become more relaxed and folks from outside the culture adopt things. I think it's kind of cool because folks are curious, but then I can understand it too because it's a sense of like, yo, that's mine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Why, whoa, you can't come
Yeah.
in. And I understand that is because of how outsiders come in and behave or just may not understand things and now you're fucking it up. So I can respect that, to be
Oh,
honest.
Yeah, and just a level of respect too. You
Oh
know?
yeah. I mean, there's always a general level of respect. I feel like that's universal.
Yeah.
Whenever you go anywhere, like you shouldn't be going to another country and like, oh, you need to change that because I don't like the way you do it. And this is the way we do things here in America. It's like you can't just walk up in there and say that, you know. But it's, to me, there's also a level of tolerance from other cultures, you know, not understanding that as well.
Yeah.
And it's just like where they're very closed-minded about it. And there are certain things that to me there are non-negotiables, and there are things like where it's like, well, he doesn't really know any better. He didn't grow up, you know, like this.
Right.
But it's like you said, you know, you shouldn't be twerking in the middle of like some stairs in front of Mount Fuji. It's just like
It's kind of ignorance,
it's
you know what I mean?
ignorant and inappropriate in general, you know.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Japan?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't.
Where's
I've
it on the
always-
bucket list?
It's on the bucket list. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just talking to my fiance about this after TAS ended. You know, just following all the media coverage and stuff, and she was like, "We should go next year." You know.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just being in the car industry a little more, I got an invite from Valenti to go to.
Nice. They had a
so-
really nice booth over there.
Yeah. And so those like doors are opening up more, you know.
Nice.
And to go and maybe know somebody there would make the trip a lot easier too. You know,
Totally.
it's like show me the spots or
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure I'm not stepping out of line either. I mean, you won't see me twerking up in front of some in front of the temple or anything. But, you know, like even just little things like going to SEMA and making sure that when I accept a business card from somebody that I do it properly.
Right.
You know, it's just little things that are important. So to have some connections there the next time, you know,
Oh, yeah.
when I decide to go would be,
Hopefully I get another trip out of there
would be
next year.
awesome.
Oh, you got to, because
Yeah.
I want to go. He's saying he wants to
Yeah.
go, bro.
Yeah.
We already got a
That'd
party.
be dope.
I know Nick would want to go, so.
Yep.
Yeah, and it seems like I'm always like seeing like, you know, the homies on Instagram and stuff who are there, and I'm like, damn, I didn't know that they go. I didn't know they do that. You know, so yeah, I think like getting a group together or like no matter what, even if we just went,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna find some people, I think, you know, to hook up
Totally.
with.
I had some buddies like, and that's so true, is because like if I would have went solo, there were a lot of things I wouldn't have even thought about, and one of them would have been basic shopping. I had so many friends that sent parts back because they got parts cheap, even like bare bricks. You know, what I mean, 1,000 percenters. There was like, oh, hey, $80. I'm like, what the hell? This shit is like $400, $800 out here. So I wouldn't even think of stuff like that or to where to shop at. You know what I mean? So definitely feel you on that. But you said SEMA, and I think that's like a good transition for us, bro. Like, cause I know you just had your first SEMA, right?
Yeah.
How was it? Talk to me.
Dude, it was an experience for sure. Like it was a lot of fun. It was more than I thought it would be. Like
more fun?
More
or more money? Because
I
feel you on
that. More interesting. It was definitely as much money as I thought it would be. Just because like I was like planning everything out, you know, from like way before. Like when I got the invite, it was like, all right. I didn't accept it at first. It was like, let me like.
When did you get the invite?
Look at this and see what it's going to take and what it's going to cost, you know. I got it from Beat Sonic, from my sponsor, Beat Sonic.
When about was that?
I'd say like maybe around May or June.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had some time to like think about it.
Yeah, it's better than most guys. Hey, I want my car done. It's 2 weeks before October.
Yeah, but you know, SEMA, they don't give you any instruction or anything until like the week before, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I was telling Arllan I had a totally different kit at the time, you know, and they offered to use my car, and I sort of had like some imposter syndrome, you know, where I was just like I don't have a SEMA build, you know, like I'll stay out of those waters. You know, there's other people that could probably represent it better,
right.
You know. But you have other people telling you like, no, man, like you're great, you know, you're good with talking with people, you're good with like, you know, customer to customer relations, your car is plenty good enough to like make it into the show.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a different car even at that time.
Yeah.
But I thought, man, if I'm gonna go though, like I want to like the full experience, you know. I want to build that will be like a SEMA worthy build.
You're doing it the way it should be versus what I see a lot at SEMA, which is definitely some builds that I don't know why they're there.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's definitely because a friend of a friend had a booth and he had a spot, and then no drive shaft in my car, but it's here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
incomplete projects for sure. That shit gets on my nerves.
It's just like appreciating appreciating the project, really appreciating the opportunity, and being like, I don't want to be like seen as like a hack, you know.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to accept something, anything in life, if I'm going to do something, like I want to do it to its fullest, you know, and what's it going to take to get there. If it's something that I can't tackle, then don't bother with it, you know. But if you're going to accept something, let's like make it the best it can be and put all of our effort into it.
For sure. That's so true though, because I mean, even what Arllan was saying, I remember when I went there in 23, because it was my first time period going to the show. Like I had known of the show, read about it in magazines and whatnot, but it was my first time physically there in the building. And I kind of couldn't believe it myself, like walking the show, like outside, inside, going between these halls. I mean, there were cars that were like, I describe them as toe up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, toe up, bro. You know what I mean? Like, horrible wrap or mismatched paint, you know what I mean? And you could see defects, you know what I mean? Beyond that too, right? And I'm like, I would have never brought this here.
Right.
Absolutely. I wouldn't even pull out the garage.
Yeah.
You know, so it kind of blows my mind. I think, you know, that's why I was asking between TAS and SEMA, is because it seems like SEMA has kind of become, that's why I'm always on the fence about it now, is because it's kind of become more of like a, I just did it kind of thing. I just need to get it there and that's it. I'll bring the car back. It's more the clout behind it than the physical fucking what it takes to get there. You're talking about like what your takeaway experience probably was building it. Like, you know what? I'm switching the whole program up, right? Yeah, like where the fuck is that? Like with like SEMA these days? Like I don't understand.
It's definitely gone downhill over the years, and just speaking from an industry perspective, a lot of it has to do with social media too. Social media helped boost it and hurt SEMA at the same time. It obviously boosted it because there's more coverage. You know, now there's posts about it by 1,000 people all over IG and TikTok, YouTube, etc. But also at the same time, a lot of the companies that would normally booth at SEMA and spend that marketing budget there can do a quarter of what it costs to be at SEMA and get 10 times the ROI by focusing on social media.
I think folks really saw that after fucking COVID.
Yeah, and it's like COVID was a huge thing too, so where it's just like that affected, you know, physical viewership and things like that. But because SEMA is such a household name, it's still important to many companies that they show up
Yep.
and that they, do a big presentation and they do big builds and they show things.
Mm-hmm.
But over the years, because they're so desperate to fill spots, they're
That part.
just allowed to like, hey, you can come in, just
Everybody
Just
on in.
accepting.
slide me
yeah.
this dub real
Yeah.
quick, like, I'll let your Ultima in, like, whatever.
I mean, it's huge. It's a lot of spots to
Yeah.
fill, you know?
And the venue
they're-
is massive.
And they're doing all the outside stuff, and it is massive. And that's what was really surprising to me is just how big it was and
Oh,
how
yeah.
many cars they got in there. I mean,
is
they
that-
shut the whole convention center
Is
down.
that really doing anybody any value though? I remember when I went in 23, I didn't even get to walk the whole show.
I can't speak from a vendor side or like retailer is somebody in the automotive industry that might be walking every hall and they've got a schedule and they're like, we want
Sure.
to see this and that. Like, I'm sure there's still a lot of value in that to them, but to builders, yeah, I don't know.
I'm still relatively new to it as well, me being so young. I probably this is like my 3rd or 4th year in a row going to SEMA.
Yeah.
But after my first year, I didn't even go to all the halls. And every time I go, I still don't see the need to go to every single hall. And really, I'm just there to like have meetings with the people I'm having meetings with, or like, meet people that I need to meet, and et cetera. And that's it. And
Right.
That's my SEMA.
Right.
And then see people just like TAS that I never see every other part of the year. Whether it's guys from like Haltech or stuff like that, or JRZ, which they're from Amsterdam, and I never get to see them anywhere else, but I see them at SEMA or Tokyo Auto Salon.
For sure.
And it's just, I spend more time outside of SEMA than I do in SEMA, which is the funny part. And a lot
Just
of
like
times,
networking and stuff?
Yeah, and a lot of times I try not to be there for the whole week these days anymore.
Right.
It's just too much, and
Yeah,
I'm
it's
taking,
a long week.
It's a long week. It's an expensive week.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And where
expensive
SEMA
week.
lines up for me too is always before World Finals for Super Trofeo.
Right.
So it's like, I'm gonna go to Vegas, drive back to LAX. And I
Yep.
gotta fly this plane all the way to like Italy or Spain or wherever the heck it is every other year. And it's just like, then I gotta work for a whole week and then come back and then like unpack everything. It's just like, I don't need to do 2 weeks straight where
Right.
I'm like traveling. Like it's just too much.
For sure. For sure. I mean, even with that, like how are you getting there every year? Are you getting there because of how connected you are, or you're like, I'm just cutting a ticket, I'm gone?
To SEMA?
SEMA.
A lot of the times it's, like with Counterspace, we always have our yearly meetings and
Yeah.
with companies that we work with. So a lot of times I'll go for that sake and I'll just drive my car out there, book a room, keep it simple, don't do anything extravagant. And then a few events here and there, like some of the parties. And really it's just to like see people
Yep.
more than the party itself, show face, and then that's about it.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, what advice do you have for someone that's trying to hit SEMA or something like that for the first time? And so like they're not feeling,
Yeah. So my advice for SEMA, especially if you're trying to build a car, and you're approached by a company, whether you're approached by a company or you set a proposal forward, that's usually done via PowerPoint and making it look super professional.
Yep.
And like commitments that you need to keep is do it like Craig, don't half-ass your shit. Like me and you, like we've all built SEMA cars here, and we've definitely tried to keep it like 100% like effort as possible.
Yeah.
Don't cut corners anywhere. I'm too tired of seeing builds like that. Don't just be another guy to do it just for SEMA. And I'd say building a car as a whole for a SEMA, it's an expensive endeavor, man.
Yeah.
It's
It
a
is.
lot of money.
It
So
is.
don't just do it for clout, this and that. If you have a marketing plan for it, if you have a reason why you're doing it, then that's why you do it.
Right.
Whether it's to build more exposure for yourself or to introduce yourself to the industry, to land a certain job or to work with certain people. I feel like those are the really big connotations on why you would want to do SEMA and build a car for SEMA. Because it can definitely open a lot of doors for you, even these days with it not being as big as it used to be. But do it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I've seen too many guys pour like 60, 70 grand into a build. I'm broke.
Yeah, and if it's not for like,
For sure. What's next? I don't know.
yeah, and you're gonna move on because if there's
Yeah.
not an underlying reason why you did that, if it's not an important reason for you and it's just for the clout, like
Right.
SEMA's gonna be gone and done, and then you're like, wow, I just dropped a shitload of money and I'm not even like invested in this project anymore.
Right. Well, I mean, like Arllan said something very important, right? Like, what's the marketing plan?
Yeah.
And so, like, What was your, like, I'm pretty sure you're probably still going through it, but what was your post, like, SEMA game plan? Because I know we'll get to how to import ice, but like, what was your post SEMA marketing plan? Like, you're like, all right, what am I doing next?
Yeah, I mean, really, it was just like, one, it was for the experience, right?
Right.
Like to be a part of that automotive culture in arguably the biggest way, right?
Oh,
to
yeah.
be a part of
You're at the biggest stage.
Yeah, and then as far as like post SEMA stuff goes, like I just kind of got back into cars after being absent for a long time. You know, life and only being able to have like one vehicle, and that vehicle needs to be able to do it all.
Yep.
BRZ does not do it all.
Tell me about it. I know what you mean.
I'm talking about
Yeah.
you carry like a whole table in there.
Dude, it fits more than you think. Sometimes I'll roll up
Oh,
the
yeah.
shows and I'll pull out like a ladder ball set and chairs, and I'm like unloading for the show. I'm like, all right, boys, we're ready
Yep.
for the day, man. But you know, I just wanted to like. I only had the car for 2 years, and I really only started building it for a year
Gotcha.
before SEMA happened. So like I've just been stepping back into this territory, you know what I mean? And so, I mean, it was really like, I'm invested in this. If I'm getting an offer to go to SEMA now, then I might as well do it.
Got to.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow through this build regardless, right? So really, it was just, let's have the experience, grow my exposure out of it. Whatever comes. I'm not doing it for that,
Yeah.
but you know, like it's just like, hey, let me put on display my vision of what, you know, my build would be, and put it out there, you know, and create. If I'm going to be working and building on cars again, create relationships.
Yep.
Like that's what SEMA's all about, right? Create the relationships and the contacts, and that's just going to free up my ability to continue to do this.
Oh, yeah.
100%. I mean, I'm really happy to hear that, because I feel like, in my experience, you know, I'm nosy. I'll be asking folks, you know, I'm like asking you guys, what's going on? So what's your plan? You know, I'd like to know, because sometimes it helps me kind of figure out what I want to do. And I remember, like, in my experience, bro, like, I feel like, you know, when I give advice on shit like this, because everybody was asking me about SEMA, you know, or just like what I do with these things, and it's like, I don't even necessarily have a clear mindset of like what I want to do after things like that, but I know that I'm going to. And I think it's important is because, you know, you said it, there's an opportunity, right? And I think it's cool because right now you're using this opportunity to kind of like probably grow closer to yourself, learn more about yourself, right? Maybe even build new things within yourself. But I think it's important, like, to do that, or at least establish something, right?
Yeah.
Like, where is this event going to take my life, right? And I think where folks take that shit for granted is because, you know, you'll be like, oh, I'll figure it out, right? And the truth is, you know, days, weeks, months go by hella quick, and you know, like, I can't believe it's already been 2 years. It's almost 2 years since I was at SEMA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
3 for my car, because I went the year before you did when I did my Supra.
It's crazy how fast time flies by, right? And I feel like the door closes on opportunity so quickly if you're not just thinking about something. So I think it's dope that you're in the present and you're very aware of like what you want to do with it, right? Even if it's not what others would do, I think that's dope because you're not just sitting with it and it's not a squandered opportunity, right?
Yeah, right.
I think that's dope because that's my advice to folks always is like figure out a way to keep it moving.
Yeah.
Because then the opportunity kind of still stays fresh, it stays hot.
Yeah,
You know
and
what I
just
mean?
like just take the opportunities, you know, and,
Yeah.
and or don't. It might not be right for you, but recognize when an opportunity is in front of it, and then see how you can leverage that,
Right.
really to help you down the road. You
For
know?
sure. I mean, what you're saying kind of speaks a lot to me is because that was what your goal and my goal was kind of the same. Like I didn't. Now that the fact that I had gone to Tread Pass, I was like, all right, like I'm cool. I hit the goal there. Car's probably not going to change a whole lot. So for me, what I wanted to change around me was quality partners, right? Can I get better partnerships? Can I find other folks? And like last year just spun out for me in a great way. I mean, I built in deeper on the quality of shows I wanted to attend, you know, so I built relationships with organizers, you know what I mean? Met the folks at Lean, and that rolled into a crazy opportunity. So I support that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
Self-growth
sick. Yeah.
is kind of cool to show light on, but I just think it's dope that you're spotlighting some sort of progressive movement.
Yeah, man, and likewise. I mean, like you're out there, you're talking to people, you're learning, you're picking up on things. Like you said, like I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna just put it out there and ask because you're open. You're open-minded. You're open to things. You're trying to like learn different angles or see how other people are doing it, and it's like that's really what it's all about. Is like you said, like how can I take this and improve my life or see where this path takes me.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
But
like,
you're never gonna know if you don't ask those questions and you don't take those opportunities,
Yep.
man. People walk by them all the time.
100%. 100%. You know, we talked about TAS. We talked about SEMA. I've personally never been to hot import nights. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Actually, now I think about it, neither have I.
Yeah, right.
Because we live in LA, right? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I mean, I'm from the Bay, and they have a hot import nights up there. and
Yeah.
I still have never been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know who runs it, and it was always like, so it sounds like for you guys, it was for me, like hot import nights as like a youngster was like the shit. Like that was the
Yeah.
show
Hell
you had to
yeah.
go to. If you were gonna make one, it was HIN, right? Like they had,
100%.
because it really was back then. It was all imports. So if
Oh.
you're a Japanese or Asia import enthusiast, like that's the one you want to be at.
Yep.
And when I was young, like the cars were more rare. Like it was way more rare to see a Supra and an NSX and all the Japanese supercars. Like now they've gone through a few owners. They're a little more accessible.
Yep. Laws have
Regulations, mods have changed, and so we can go to. We're lucky to be in SoCal. We can go to like any local meet and like see one or two legit, clean, imports. But man, back then that was like if you wanted to go see them, like that was the place to do it. You never saw them on the road. That didn't happen.
No.
And so now, like being older, different perspective, and getting back into cars, it was like first I want to build something that I would have wanted when I was a kid, and if I'm going to show it off. Well, it's going to be a hot import nights, right? Like, obviously. So it's just like it was a bucket list event,
You're right though, dude. I remember, like, not to cut you off, but like back then too, you were also taking whatever you had access to import car wise.
Yeah.
You saw a lot of strange import vehicles there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you even saw some holy grails that we don't see anymore, like the 3000 GT. Like that thing was
Yep.
more exciting to see than
Yeah.
the Supra.
3000 GT, 300 ZX.
Yeah, the
like,
ZX.
a lot of those cars, you don't really see a lot of them.
No,
Yep.
you don't.
You mentioned that you had an Eagle Talon way back when.
Yeah,
and,
dude.
like, you don't even see those things anymore.
People don't even know what that is.
Yeah, and I love that car.
Yeah, it's a Mitsubishi Eclipse. If
Yep.
you don't know, yeah.
Yeah.
It was all-wheel drive turbo. Thing was a ton of fun, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. But what was so now we talked about these 3 shows. I did see your story a little bit. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Did you watch through it? I was like,
yeah,
the
I had to. Once I saw the first one, and he was like, I'm not trying to take it thunder, but like,
Yeah.
he was really trying to get his audience to understand where his vehicle was positioned. And he was asking his audience for like support because he couldn't figure it out.
Oh, man.
it was not. You know how like they say, don't meet your heroes.
Oh, God.
It was a little bit of that, and I'm just being real. I'm not trying to like diss the event, but this was like, and I get the impression it's under new management. They're trying to do something with it.
Yeah, I think what I've heard, it's definitely changed a few hands over the years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The guy who's running it now, the showrunner that I met, seems to be super excited about it. He's a fan like we are. He was a younger guy going to the event, and now he's like running it. So he's trying to shape it into what he wants it to be. And but there was just like, we can do better. there was like 2 rows of cars,
Okay.
about 120 yards long. So 2 rows of walking, so that's 4 rows of cars, right? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Right? 2 lanes, 120 yards long. That was it. I mean, that was it. And then you go inside, and maybe 20 cars in the actual like hangar.
Okay.
Which was a super sick vibe, and the big hangar doors are open,
Yeah.
and the like moon was just like half crested over this giant battleship, like it was
Yeah.
a sick venue, but it just didn't have the pull like it did when we were younger. But man, altogether though, I appreciate it. There's just
Oh, yeah,
some
most
logistical
definitely.
things that just we need to do better on, like
What do you
2
think-
food trucks, they both ran out of food. There were
I feel
people
like
not
that's a
eating.
common thing.
Yeah.
I think
hate
they
that shit.
forgot to order trash cans because there was like,
Oof.
everybody was like walking around like, where do we throw
See,
our
that sounds like
stuff
new
away?
management to me, because if you're an event organizer, right,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a certain amount of people, right? And you have a certain amount of trucks. You know, you could probably do like, you know, easy math on lines and bathrooms and everything else. So that kind of is telling this new management for sure. Under provided on talent and resources. But what do you said? You know, you made an interesting comment. What, I mean, you probably could comment on this too. But what do you guys think is missing from like the heyday?
I think missing from the heyday and like, you know, I personally didn't live it because I'm only 26.
For sure.
So I was born in '98. So I was born right when like the Super was about to end.
Yeah.
At least the Mark IV. But a lot of things that I see nowadays compared to back then is that, like I said, I'm always a firm believer that social media is a double-edged sword. You know, there's so much access, but there's also so much disconnection while in the middle of it. And I feel like effort as a whole isn't appreciated as much anymore.
Right.
And it's also just, like I call it the participation trophy syndrome. Like just because I did something, no matter how hard I tried, I should get it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem where it's just like guys are, you know, they'll get, and people are snowflakes these days. It's like people's hands are soft, man.
Yeah, no calluses.
Like my generation is
Manicure
definitely
nails.
like a huge guilty part of that, where it's like they want to do things and then they get criticized for it, and they're like, "Well, you're a hater. I'm gonna cancel you. This, and that."
Yeah.
But I'm just like, dude, that's part of the game. Like,
Yeah.
you can't get any better if nobody's here to tell you that you're doing shit.
Yeah,
Right? You know,
for sure.
it's like if I built a car and then like I took it to the racetrack and somebody's like, "Oh, like, you know, if you designed your aero this way, you know, your wing's too small, this and that." I can't just be like, "Well, you're a fucking hater," you know, like you don't know what you're talking about. But this guy's running 10-second faster lap times, you know, so like maybe he might know something.
Right.
So
And they get super sensitive too, you know, if it's like, if they see something that isn't for them, they got to make it vocal. And you don't understand, like, this build isn't for everybody. This build is for me.
Yep.
And if you appreciate it and we see eye to eye, then that's the community we create around this project, right? And people just, I'll tell you one thing that's definitely missing from the heyday, and you can agree or not agree, is quality. Quality builds. Things have gotten so easy nowadays with rap, and everybody thinks they can rap.
Right.
And with like
3D scanning. to me is a
3D
huge
printing is
part
the
of
next
that.
thing I'm going to say, which
Yep.
can be done right. I actually 3D printed and designed the fog light housing for this bumper.
Oh, that's actually dope.
So that is.
I thought that was a part of the kit.
No,
It
yeah.
looks so flush, bro.
So, I mean, that can be utilized in an amazing way to create a clean build, right?
Yeah.
But like, I got beat out by HIN by a WRX with like a HKS oil slick style wrap to it.
Yeah.
And lights everywhere. People don't appreciate like custom color matching factory paint anymore, and what it takes to do that and like finish a car off completely and like stance it correctly. It's just like the quality is just gone down.
That's true. Like, I love rap, don't get me wrong. I think it's a great thing that happened for the industry.
It is.
You know, like different color options, definitely less prep work than paint.
Oh yeah.
But there is a huge difference when you look at a really well done paint job and a wrap job. And I will always 100% prefer a really well done paint job.
Always.
Like, I want to paint all my cars. I want to paint all my cars Tiger Eye Pearl because
it
you
is a
can't
craft.
replicate that in wrap.
Facts.
And it's a craft.
And wrapping is a craft too. It's hands-on, but there's something different when you have to spray layer by layer evenly across the car.
There's certain
and prep it. And
colors that only paint can really do.
Yeah.
Like, Porsche has this crazy color called Chroma Flare that looks different in different
Told me
lights.
about this shit.
And you can't get that anywhere. Companies have tried to replicate it. They get close,
Right.
but it's not the real thing. You can almost immediately tell that it's not the real thing.
I remember you showed it to me. That shit looks unreal.
Yeah,
It
it
looks
is
unreal.
nuts.
But you know, you said something, and it goes back to like the shows, right? Like between like the essence and the quality of the show, I feel like the heart. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like a little bit has to do with like IQ. And I'm gonna be sensitive when I say that. I'm not trying to like insult folks, right?
Sure.
But like I wouldn't be.
y'all are
fit to
dumb.
hold-
I say, and don't even worry about it. I say that all the time. Like, every time I walk into somewhere, I'm like, man, this is some room temp IQ. Like, what the heck is going on?
But I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't be fit probably to hold one of these just because I don't have the IQ across the board on like a lot of the makes and models. Also on like what's currently kind of popping as far as like you know, what makes, or like just parts, you know what I mean? What parts are kind of trending inward, what parts are like out now, you know what I mean? So I feel like event organizers, bro, especially in the judging, when we're intaking cars and cars are gonna be judged, right, for folks, I want to make sure that the judge knows exactly what he's judging. Yeah. I mean, do you have history on this vehicle, bro, to appreciate? Because I don't have no disrespect for anybody running reps or anything, but I don't have any reps, right? I don't try to run anything that is not JDM or has any historical value. So, again, before you start judging my shit, you know what I mean? What you know about it, right? And I really feel like there is a large gap in that.
Yes.
You know, I remember I was at a meet one time, and someone walked by, and this isn't me saying that, like, you know, my shit got to be whatever, me being mad cocky, but this guy walked by and he was like, oh, another MK5. I was like, bro, what?
No, look harder.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. You know, but then again, I was watching the Grammys, dude, and like, it was this funny thing, at least younger ladies are interviewing Babyface. I don't really expect a lot of young folks to know who Babyface is.
Oh, man.
But if they're going to this place, have some IQ of who you're probably going to be interviewing. So like Babyface come down and they're interviewing. They don't really know what to ask them, and they see like a younger celeb come up, and they start squirming. They can't wait to get away from Babyface to go talk to whoever is the hype clout. Yeah. And I'm like, that's kind of the problem with just events, or at least what I'm seeing from my eyes with stuff like that is there's a gap between like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
If it's just a gathering of cool cars and shit, let's do it.
Yeah, cool.
The second you start judging me,
that's a whole different other question.
Yeah, and there was a lethal issue in the judging of Hot Import Nights. They did it in the dark, and they had 2 outdoor lights, one at the entrance, one at the food trucks. So all of our cars in between those lights were in the blackness, dude. Like, and I got a dark car. The models are walking around looking for white cars to photograph. And I walked up to one of them. They were done taking pictures, and they're standing there like hunting, you know? And I walked up to one, I was like, if you're looking for a car to photograph, I brought my SEMA build over here, you know? And they're like looking at it, and they're, well, you would think like, let me jump on it, because there was some tow up cars over there, man. But it was dark, and they're like, we're kind of like looking for lighter cars, you know? I was like, let's just try it. Let's just try it. Come on, take a couple.
It for me.
Good lighting will make or break your presentation.
And the judge is walking around with a headlamp. like, bro, you're not going to see the imperfections in that person's rap job with your headlamp. Right. You know what I mean? You're not going to see my Brembos and how they're polished with your headlamp.
That kind of just feels bad.
That goes back to your take on the management thing, like bad management. Like, that is on their end. Like, you need to have proper lighting in a venue.
We're there at 1 o'clock. We got 3-4 hours of hours.
Where
I'm
things
assuming
are
you
going
paid
to
get there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So where's that money going?
Yeah.
You know?
Just quality and IQ.
I'm not trying to beat up the events guys, you know what I mean? Because there are a few events that I love. Like I love going to WeekFest. I thought that shit was fun. IAM did a great job of curating high quality cars.
And it's hard.
It's hard.
I don't want to do it. It's hard. Coordinating people is tough.
But I'm just asking for like a little bit of like, you know, if you're organizing something, make sure you know what you organize. You know what I mean?
I think IQ is one way to put it that's a little too specifically. I think it's more of just common sense, which actually ties into that. But it's also like, when I say common sense, people are like, oh, well, it's like, how is that common sense? Well, it's common sense in that field. You know, like you have a mechanical common sense too. And I tell people all the time, it's like, you know, working in the racing industry, and there are guys that are like, well, how was I supposed to know that? I'm like, dude, you're in the middle of a racetrack. You do this every day. It should be common sense for you.
Straight up.
Yeah. It's just things like in any specific industry that you're in, there is a level of common sense and competency that I feel like you are responsible to uphold.
Right.
You know.
Right. Or just don't do that then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because give the opportunity to somebody else.
Someone else that's actually competent and wants to do it. Because you're going to be doing this job, and let's say you're handling like hazardous materials, you know. You don't want to be the guy like, well, I didn't know. Now, like, you know, half the town is on fire. Like,
it's important, bro, because it's not to shit on them, to put all the weight on them, but it helps in like our efforts. Like, okay, I'm gonna prep my car the night before, forget the money and everything else. Then I'm gonna drive, however long your drive is, gas in the tank, right? All the your day, because these events are all day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You're there all day, so it's all of that. in the hopes that we all kind of come together and move this thing forward with some grace and shit, you know what I mean? And we're all excited about it. That's just what I was thinking, you know, like, and that's all I see why I don't even hit a lot of events, because I'm like, are y'all really gonna do a good job of making me feel good? I don't want the participation trophy. I'll happily lose to like an animal of a build, you know what I mean? And I have, but like, yeah, you know what I mean? I just succeeded to a decent, high quality caliber build rather than, you know, somebody's around the way build, you know?
I'm gonna lose to a guy with a rapping tees, I know it.
Yeah, you know, or whatever. You got some HREs and you got all the hardware in the world, and it's just,
It's fun though, you know, it's like, I'm gonna do some more events this year because I want to just enjoy the build, enjoy the car, put it out there, and just like SEMA, just like meet people. You know what I mean? I mean, that's how I met you guys. Like, that's what it's all about. We're here, we're chatting it up, see what opportunities arise. And
yeah, man. No, you showed me a lot of love, man. When I came back from SEMA, I remember we got super close. Like, I think there was a AT230 event, something like that. I think it was a GR or something like that. But yeah, dude, I totally agree. It really does kind of like bring you together.
Well, your build was sick, you know, and unique. You know that, and I mean, it was literally bathroom talk. We like met in the line to the restroom, you know, and I was like, oh, and I had videoed your car and asked you if I could take some photos, you know. And so yeah, we just started chatting up in the restroom and started following you. I went to Georgia after that, really soon after, actually, and I really appreciated like what you were doing, because like this podcast, like you were doing something different. You were speaking truthfully to yourself and truthfully to your followers. And I remember like a story I think you put out or something. You're like, fuck it, this might lose me some followers, but I'm gonna say it anyways, you know? And like,
I did too. I lost like 200 followers that day. I was like, oh shit. And I think I posted a screenshot of the 200 gone.
You're like, all right, test proved here, you know? But that's what, like, who cares, man? Like, tell your story, you know, and people who will find that, who connect to it, and that's what's going to bring the value, versus all these people are putting out the same thing. Here's a shot of my car. Here's a shot of the back of my car. Here's my wheels. You know, it's all the same shit. Like, we've seen it all, but like, who are you as a person? What story are you telling? What value are you bringing? You know?
For sure.
And that influenced me. I mean, like, straight up, like, you influenced me to be more open, and like, I got a lot to share. Like, I mean, I don't look like it. I'm 38 years old. I've ran 3 businesses. I've lived 2 lifetimes than some people that have lived twice my age. You know what I mean? Like, I have a lot to share, and I like sharing it, and I like helping people. I open up my garage on the weekends and let people use my lift. Like,
you got a lift in your garage?
I got a quick jack.
Nice.
Yeah, we're not at that level yet.
We're getting there.
But you know, it's like it's all love, and that's what I loved about the car community, is like wrenching back then and working on shit with friends and just like having a good time, you know, and like. So like, you influenced me to like, just let me sprinkle some of myself in this a little bit more. And if people appreciate my message or want to hear or want to reach out, then that's what it's all about. That one person who gets something from it is what makes it for me, you know, versus like thousands of followers who just scroll, double click. Yeah. Like, that's not doing anything for anybody. And I want to find ways to help people, to offer something, you know what I mean? The car is just a catalyst for that, you know? Right. And so for that, man, I just appreciate it.
I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, and I owe a lot of thanks to these 2 fellas, you know, to Nic and to Arllan too, is because I've been, you know, when I was talking to you, I had this idea for I Hate Small Talk in my head, but I didn't know what it was. And it came from a lot of like the conversations I would have with like folks in my DMs. And it's not that I hate small talk, but it's just I encourage conversations like this, is because I do like learning like about everything you had to say today, because I had no idea about that side of you, you know what I mean? And I've learned with this is my second sit down with Arllan outside of just hanging out, and you know, I learned so much about him too. And so I think it's important that, like, you know, folks sit down like this and you know, we have these conversations, right? As just people and shit, but we also are talking to somebody else who probably is going to feel, you know, it's going to evoke an emotion in them or something where they're going to be like, oh, I could do that too, or I don't know. Like you said it too, man. Like, I feel like people today, it's not soft, man, but they're soft. And I don't think people take enough challenges. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go get beat up outside. You know what I mean? Go take a risk. You know what I mean? Go have a real uncomfortable fucking conversation.
Yes.
You know?
It's that really like cheesy saying where it's like L is like, you know, when you take an L, it's a loss, but lessons also start with L.
That's what grows
All
us.
day, dog.
That's what grows us the most.
Yep.
Is all those failures. Like
Yep.
we don't go through life trying not to fail. Like I'll do something knowing I'm going to fail, but it's the lesson you learn out of that you take along to that point where you do succeed. You know what I mean? And yeah, there's so many people afraid to take that leap and take that step. And I talk to people all the time who are just like, how did you do that? How did you give up your engineering degree and life to start your own business that's like so just like uncertain, right? And it's, well, I mean, you can always go back. You'll always find a route. Like you can always find some kind of safety
That's the beauty of life,
in something. But if you don't take the opportunities, it's the fear of not taking the step. You know,
someone said something to me, and they were paraphrasing something they read in a book, and that shit hit me like a punch in the face. And you know, we always look at life like as like, oh, you know, like I have tomorrow, or oh, I'm living large, right? Yeah. But it says something to the effect of like, every day we wake up, we're a step closer to death.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that, I was like, oh shit, because I'm always like, oh yeah, I'm a year older. I'm like, oh, it's true though, right?
Yep.
Because as things grow, they near their expiration, right? And so I was like, fuck, like you really do got to take advantage of every moment, every opportunity, right? Be present, live in the moment, you know, talk to your friends, and be present, because shit, I mean, you could be gone tomorrow, and then how would you do things differently today, right? And I really don't think people really understand that shit.
No.
Like, they take it for granted, you know, the gift of another day. And I don't want to get too heavy into that shit, but
But fuck it, small talk. That's
you know,
what we're here
no.
for.
I like to keep things on the up and the upside, but I really do feel like people, you know, like live your life, bro, to your full potential. You don't need to have money. No one's ever got the perfect fucking tools, right? There's always going.
Yeah.
We said this the last time. There's always going to be a problem,
Yep.
right? So you really just gotta like live your life, bro. But you know who definitely got a very valuable lesson this year? Drake. You don't mess with the West Coast.
They're not like us.
I'm a big advocate for the West Coast, man. I'm born out here. I don't really watch a whole lot of football since the Raiders haven't really been doing their thing.
I think Vegas Raiders down, man. I miss the Oakland Raider days, especially being a Bay Area native.
But
I'm going to play the devil's advocate for myself and for anybody watching. You got to bring me up to speed, because I'm not a sports person. I'm an extreme sports person. I race mountain bikes and snowboard, but I am not a team sports person.
I don't know shit about who's doing what at the Super Bowl this year.
It's the Chiefs, which the only reason why I know that is because it's Taylor Swift's boyfriend trying to win again.
I'm cool with Tay-Tay. I got a lot of beef last night from Taylor Swift with like my invite to Super Sunday. A lot of people didn't apparently get why, or that picture reference. It was from the Grammys and the beef of Dre and or Drake and Kendrick.
I'm one of those people who won't get it.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I mean, where are you at with the beef? Are you enjoying the beef? The back and forth?
No, bro, you got to talk to me like I'm like 2. I don't know what the beef is. I'm like, I don't pay attention.
I mean, long story short, you know, the boy from way up north asked for it, and then you know, you fuck around and you find out. I think he got the best, you know, the best lesson in the fuck around and find out.
So is it just this is an instance of if you dish it out, you gotta be able to take it type thing?
I think it was a little bit of that. I think, you know,
I think it a little too much.
Yeah.
There's that, but you got to be ready to take. You got to be ready. You know, I like the 48 Laws of Power. Robert Greene. Mm-hmm. And there's a law in there, and it says never underestimate your opponent.
Oh God, yeah.
You know what I mean? Know your enemy. And he didn't know his enemy.
No.
You know what I mean? He did not know his enemy. And I think like once he went after K-Dot's like family, which is still bar for bar. That's where he put then K-Dot put the pedophile thing out. And I think where Drake made the misstep, and I think this is where like culture and stuff come from. I get excited on stuff like this, on culture shit, is that like, if you look back in the essence of like hip hop and the sport, the guys that usually won are the ones that had the bop. Jay-Z when he took out Nas, and I thought Ether was a better record, but the takeover went to the clubs. He had bitches singing it, right? When you start to have girls sing beef records, game over. Little kids singing it, it's game over, right? And you had this record that little kids are singing now, like they're not like us, right? They're playing it every basketball ad. And so I think Drake's life quickly went from like, oh, I didn't just lose the beef, but now this record is gonna be in my face for like a couple of years.
It's actually really funny because I was at the Grammys this year.
Oh, you were?
Oh, yeah.
So
What?
one of my close clients,
It's just,
It's just all over the place.
so I was over there. One of our close clients had sent me an invite, and I brought one of my other friends out, and she's like a music artist and stuff like that. But I do some work for her on cars. But I was at the Grammys this year, so when Kendrick won the Grammys, like, oh
shit.
shoot,
Bro,
here we go.
took 5.
I wasn't like in the floor. We were like in a studio room watching everything.
Crazy.
But when the song "Not Like Us" came out, you could hear it from the studio room when everyone goes A minor. And
That's what I'm
like,
saying.
Oh,
I don't think I think he totally underestimated that.
oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It became a bop, it became a hit. It's something that's fun. And now they're going to play it on the biggest stage this weekend.
Oh, dude, my whole house gonna be see walking during that Super Bowl party.
It's just crazy. Like, it excites me because I think like it just shows you, like, if you look at it, because I like to study these kind of things, is that if you're going to come into a community, you know, make sure you do your homework, you know where you're at, be respectful, be mindful of the culture. Because I think why he's catching such a high amount of hate for this shit is because, in folks' larger opinion, he's been kind of pulling from the culture and not giving enough. You know what I mean? I think they outlined it, but I'm not gonna go on too heavy. But I just thought that shit was amazing. I thought it was funny. The Super Bowl's coming, and yeah, the West Coast is basically gonna be running that shit. Oh yeah. I mean, it's gonna be crazy, bro. When you hear you're gonna hear the horns be like, burn, burn, burn.
Oh yeah.
And the stadium's gonna go nuts.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm 100% on that too. Like, as soon as I saw the beef between Kendrick and Dre, I was like, hey, no way Kendrick gonna lose to Drake. Like, this guy's from Degrassi, man.
For sure.
And like, when he does this whole like, I'm running through the 6 with my woes, I'm like, you're from Canada. What 6s? What woes?
Right.
dog? Like,
But you said something, you know, you probably saw it when you was there. I'm so glad you said that because we'll end, I know we're running mad late, but we'll end it there. But this is why everything we talked about is so important, and it goes to the community and relationships.
Yep.
Drake may have more money, right? Still have the commercial records, but Kendrick has the relationships. Let me explain that really quickly why, right? He underestimated what Kendrick had behind the curtain. You've got Dr. Dre, who's got 2 generations, 3 generations worth of music and accolades stacked up, right? I know, Drake, you've been the hottest artist for the last decade. We get it. But you're going up against that. But let me remind you, it's just not that. It's also Jimmy Iovine. Now, Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre have done music together, beats, headphones, and everything else. So you're telling me when Dr. Dre picks up the phone and you got beef with my artist that Dr. Dre's voice don't carry different weight?
Yes.
Right? Like
Yep.
he's opening and closing doors on you, Drake, that you don't even know existed.
Exactly.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like straight up. Now, is he going to be a big artist from here on out? Sure. But is he going to have the same commercial success he had? Absolutely not.
Nope.
And that's why relationships are so important because at some point money stops moving the needle for you and it's who's to the right to you and the left of you that can move the fucking needle.
Yep.
Oh yeah. 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, shit, fellas. That's it.
Yeah,
we wrapping
man.
up a second one.
That was awesome.
Strong second one. Craig, I
Hell
appreciate
yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you
thanks.
for having me, you guys.
Anytime.
Nick, appreciate you always, brother. Arllan, appreciate you too, my dog. Peace, y'all.